So autism does carry a significant economic impact in terms of the ability to earn, the number of hours that are worked, the type of work that is done, etc.
This is just theory. It's just listening to it. Welcome back to our channel, and thank you once again for joining us in this another day in the life of living on Autistic Edge. I am Terry and Elaine.
And I am Lowenfield Elaine.
And we are here to share with you tips and tricks of how we navigate through our journey right here on Autistic Edge.
All right, so there we're continuing in our series looking at parental challenges.
Yeah.
And we've gone through quite a bit. And I want to thank all of our viewers for the feedback that you've shared. I think the one that we did last week particularly resonated with a number of persons, right?
That's on the education aspect of it.
Yes, and if you missed that video, you can always check it out. We'll put a link here, or we'll show you what that video looks like. But today, we're going to be looking at another subject which has to do with employment, the challenges that the parents of children on the autism spectrum face.
All right, so parents with children on the spectrum, and remember, this can apply to special needs. We have a child on the spectrum, so we speak from our experience, but this is applicable for other parents with children with other special needs. So parents with children on the spectrum often face with significant challenges which affect their availability and ability to balance work while attending to the demands of their child.
Right.
So work-life balance is a real challenge for these parents.
Real challenge.
Now, dear, I know you were doing some studies. My husband liked those studies, yes, man. Yeah, man, my husband liked the research. That's I love him, I love him. Him just in this with me, and I'm grateful for that. My husband, you did a little study with the National Institute of Health, and this is in the US, right? This is a study that was done in the US.
Right.
All right. So this was specifically to the US, but it's interesting and I want to hear about. So tell us a little bit about that.
Right. So there was a study done in 2012 that looked at how do parents with children on the spectrum, how does that affect their employment? So we're just gonna share just a few things.
And this was just the children on the spectrum, not any other disability.
Right.
All right, fine.
Not any other
just
disability.
To clarify,
just for children on the autism spectrum.
Right.
56% of children on the autism spectrum had both parents working. This is 15% less than children with no health limitations.
Interesting.
So that already is significant.
Ooh.
Mothers of children on the autism spectrum work on average of 23 hours per week. In Jamaica, our standard
work week is 40 hours. And I think that would be average in most places.
In most places as well. So you find mothers are only able to work about 23 hours per week.
Then that's a problem.
Yeah, it is. It was found though that the fathers, although the fathers are impacted, where the fathers are there in the home with the children with autism, their work hours weren't significantly affected, but the level of work that they do is affected, and also the income that they would generate is also affected. But then let me share the final statistic now. Mothers of children with autism spectrum disorder, they earn about 56% less than mothers of children with no health limitations.
Wow.
So as we're going to be sharing in this video some of the challenges that these parents face, you'll get to understand that the impact on the household income is significant. So
Wow.
autism does carry a significant economic impact in terms of the ability to earn, the number of hours that are worked, the type of work that is done, etc. So let's just jump in there and
Ooh,
start us off with what are some of these challenges.
this is just theory. It's just listening to it, because for the past few weeks we have been talking about the different challenges, but now when you have impact on employment for the
Yes.
parents, this is just even more significant. Now we're going to look at some of the impact now that we are having on this employment regime with the parents of children on the spectrum. Now, the increased demand for care. Now, as you know, these children, they need 24-hour care. They cannot be left alone. It's not like after them reach probably 12, 13, 14, you can probably leave them with an auntie, uncle if you have to run go somewhere and they don't need that. They are very dependent. So they require more intensive care, they require more intensive supervision, because safety is a big challenge when it comes to these children.
Yes.
And this leads to, the reduced availability, because if you have to care for them 24 hours, what happens during certain times. So the demand for care is just high
Right.
and demanding.
I want to add a little bit there
Yeah.
to especially the children that are non-verbal. So, for
Yeah.
example, if our son is having some kind of issue, feeling pain and that sort of a thing, it takes a lot more time to investigate one,
Yeah.
and potentially us running to the emergency room because we have no clue what is taking place
Right. Just to
with
make sure you're on the
just
safe
to make sure
side.
you're on the safe
Yeah.
side. So that too can affect your hours that you can contribute to work,
And guess
etc.
what? Some of these are most of these challenges are challenges that we have had to deal with ourselves. So, like for example, running to the emergency room when you think something is wrong, and then when you do an investigation, it might just be nothing at all.
Yes.
But you can't take anything for granted because they are unable to communicate. So it's like you have to do a root cause analysis of every time something go wrong. Energy ever high. All right.
Yes.
Talk about the next one there. Frequent appointments.
So frequent appointments. So you find that you're gonna have to take care of medical appointments, appointments for education, and appointments for therapy. You have to balance all of these different appointments. And these appointments can be very disruptive to your work schedule. So I'll give you an example. If you have a child that is having speech challenges, behavioral challenges, and then occupational health challenges, you're talking about three different types of therapies that you would need to do on a weekly basis. On average, these sessions are between 30 minutes and an hour.
And an hour.
And twice per week as well. And then we're not talking about the things and the demands that school has, that you have to attend the various things that are at school, and you need to,
can't have one will pass up me, you say.
yes, and then you need to participate in that, etc. So what we do is we have to pick and choose the
Yeah,
things
we have
that,
to choose our battles
right?
wisely.
In Jamaica, they say that it's not every drum knock
You're
that
right.
you
You
can
have to
answer.
prioritize. You have to prioritize. You have to look at some of these activities and say, that one you're now go to the. All right. So,
Talk to us
all right.
about the
So,
next one.
limited access to quality child care is another challenge that affects parents who have to work. So, finding the right specialized person that caters to the need of your child.
Yeah,
So
virtually
whereas somebody,
non-existent.
it's almost non-existent, because
Yes.
you can't employ a regular person who just does child care to leave your child with.
Yes.
You can't leave your child with every and any family member. Not everybody understand, not everybody knows how to care for them. So whenever you're leaving, you have to be thinking about the demands, what they will need, how they will communicate, and all that kind of stuff. So getting the qualified persons is a challenge. Having them during the timing that you need them
Yes.
is also a challenge, because
Yes.
the timing that they are needed is during work hours, right? And it might be extensive for you, because if caregiver don't come, you can't leave.
Yes.
And you have to rush home to release caregiver at certain time. And if you don't have other family members to fit in, that can be a challenge. So that do affect again the working hours. So you might find yourself, and that I can understand when they say, the mothers would have worked 23%,
23 hours per
23 hours,
right.
right, per week,
Yeah.
and that would be some of the challenge.
So there we're approaching the summer period, and when summer means that school is gonna be out,
Right.
and there are persons that are on here, they probably use a student assistant or a shadow during the period that the child is in school. So can you imagine when school is out, there isn't that child, that student assistant that is assigned. So what does the parent do during this period? You're having a child that doesn't cannot go into any of these care providers, etc. So you have to find alternatives.
And as you mentioned that, as we talk about the access to childcare, daycares don't normally take these children, because most of the daycares will tell you they are not equipped to handle these children.
And that's understandable.
Yeah, that's understandable. And it's only fair. If they're not equipped, they're just not equipped, right? They don't have caregivers trained to handle special needs.
Talk about the finances.
Dear, me like when you talk about the finance part of it, the finance part.
We've covered this in a few of the videos, but we have to mention it here again, especially as we're looking at the economic impact that caring for these children has on the parents and on the household in general. So the cost associated with the different therapies that need to be done, the cost associated with the different treatments that are administered, and the cost associated with the educational services. And if you missed last week's video, please go back and watch it, because we covered that extensively in last week's video. So all of these costs, when you add it up, they're very, very substantial, and they put pressure on the household. So especially, I mean, I don't know the makeup of your family that's watching this particular video, but if you have, let's say for example, your child is not an only child and you have other children that you need to care for, it might affect the quality of the education of the other child, because you might have to divert funds that you would otherwise spend on the other child's education in order to care for this particular child. So the sacrifices are many.
That it's not only funding from the other child, but it's funding from everybody, because you really have to be cutting from other areas to paste in this area because of the expense.
Well, I want to add just one quick bit there.
Yeah, go ahead.
Further education for the parents of the child, even that is going to be impacted,
because
you're not going to have the money to spend to go get that additional degree that you wanted to get, or to even get the job that you wanted to get, or that career advancement. But we're going to talk about that a bit more. That, right?
All right. Yes. All right. The next one we want to talk about is workplace discrimination, right? Now, some parents with children on the spectrum may face discrimination in the workplace, because the lack of understanding from employers regarding the time that is needed to care for these children. The caregiving responsibilities can just be so much, and it leads to job insecurity, because if you're requiring time ever so often, then your employer may see you as a liability over time. And it gives rise to insecurity for your job and the ability to really sustain an employment.
Right. And the impact even on your progression in your career, because you're not going to be able to probably meet some of those quotas. You're not seen as that employee who is that person who is top of the ladder and that sort of thing, because there is so much demand that pulls you away, not only from a physical perspective, but the other one that I'm going to cover right now is really how that affects the employee as a person as well. So let me just segue in talking about mental and emotional stress.
Boy, we talk about that every video. We can't miss this one. we cannot underestimate the level of stress that parents, and when we say parents, we too, right? Because we are pulling from our experience as well to share these points with you, right? What we go through. So tell us about the emotional stress.
Right. So caring for the child is indeed stressful, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or affects one's mental health.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then when you think about balancing that with your other tasks that you have at home, and family, and caring for your spouse and other children, etc.,
And
and then
yourself, you can't live out
and
yourself.
self, and then you have work as well. And if you're someone who is in a senior capacity, meaning you're not at an entry level, so you have employees that fall under your direct report,
Mm-hmm.
you have to be able to balance handling those situations at work, in addition to handling the challenges that you do have at home with the child as well. So it does put you under significant mental and emotional strain. So you have to be very mindful
Depression,
of that. It
stress,
could
and
potentially
yeah, it
lead to
leads
that.
to depression because when you have to be balancing so many priorities,
Yes.
it can push you, really push you to your limit. Not many persons can handle this kind of stuff.
Yes.
And I understand too why some parents they just don't want to talk about it.
Yes.
You understand? All right. So again, another factor we can look at, another factor here is rigid work policies or
Mm-hmm.
workplace policies, right? If you have inflexible policies when it comes to leave, inflexibility in terms of remote working,
Yes.
that too can be an impact. Accommodation for the parents can just be difficult if you're not able to pick up one of these because again, but and that comes back to balancing work and your personal responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
If the policy rather is inflexible or your manager is inflexible to accommodate you, that can create some amount of challenges as well.
Right.
Now there's another piece, um gaps in your employment, because tell us a little bit about that.
Right. So on occasion,
Mm-hmm.
parents have to, of course, if you have a choice to make in terms of caring for your child as opposed to work, you're gonna choose to prioritize your child.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes prioritizing the child may mean stepping away from a particular job,
Right.
just to make sure that you put your child at the forefront. We've spoken
Well,
to.
the reality is sometimes it's not even priority. You just don't have a choice.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So you have
Yeah.
to,
Mm-hmm.
you do have a choice.
Well, yeah,
Yes. So
yeah.
but you choose your child.
You choose your child.
That's really what you
True.
do. And
True.
we have spoken to many parents who have done just this. They've
Yeah.
stepped away from
From their
employment
job.
in order to prioritize working with their child. And please share in the comments if you're one such person, and
Mm-hmm.
how you handle that situation. So when you do that, sometimes it may be more or less temporary, because
Right.
as we explained before, when we talk about the financial strain, it may mean that you don't have the opportunity to build up a strong financial base to back you as you step away from
As you step
employment.
away,
So
and
you
you may
might,
have to go back.
so you step away for a little bit, but you have to go back in employment, and you find that this creates some gaps in your employment. And again, this makes you less attractive when you present yourself for your next job, because the employer is gonna look to say, okay,
What
this
were
is
you doing
somebody,
between
right? What are
2020 and 2023?
right? And
COVID happens.
it may make you appear to be unstable as far
Yeah.
as work is concerned,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
again put you at a disadvantage when it comes on to being employed.
Yeah, these challenges, it highlights the need for supportive workplace policies and to that better accommodates the situation here that we go through.
Right.
And we are talking about autism, and because we're speaking from our perspective and specifically to autism, but we just want to broaden it a little bit, that other disabilities as well,
Mm-hmm.
if you have to care for a spouse that is sick and
Mm-hmm.
children that is family members and a whole that is sick, it might just be an accident. Cancer is just on the rise now. That is something that is all over.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, stroke. I mean, we
Yeah.
have had a few, we have had to take care of other family members outside of just ASD, and it has been really, really challenging on us. And it is really imperative because guess what? We have to support family, which is the backbone of our organization.
Right.
But guess what? We are not going to just point out the struggles. Yes, these struggles are real, these struggles are hard. But of course, we are going to give some recommendations as to what we think can happen in order to mitigate against some of these, are just to help, smooth the burden a little bit. So there, I'm going to give you the first one to talk about. So we're going to look at it from two phases. We're going to look at it from the employer's perspective, what we think that our employers can do to support our parents or even persons who have to care for sick family members and others, but more so these special needs, because this have wholly more pieces to it. So you're going to speak from the employer's perspective, and then I am going to talk about what the parents themselves can do. So just give us an idea as to how you think employers can look at this.
Right. So the first thing you can look at is flexible work schedules. That's the first thing you
that's a good one.
can look at, right? We are in Jamaica, as we pointed out before. There are different employment opportunities that allow less rigidity around the 9 to 5, 8 to 5, whatever that situation is. And there's some work is less time sensitive and more project based. So you want to make sure that you place those employees in areas that has less demands of them working in a strict particular schedule. That way they can get in the required hours and it doesn't significantly affect the quality of their work. Then you have remote work, which is another option that can be considered. I mean, this is one of the good things I think that came out of COVID, where more employers are open to looking at remote work. I know in particular sectors they have set certain targets in terms of the percentage of employees that would need to be in a brick and mortar environment versus a work at home. So if someone has a child that is on the autism spectrum, you may want to consider if that makes them eligible for a work at home situation. Then we have the shifts. If the employment does allow for shifts, then you want to place the employee on the shift that is most suitable for their particular situation that they're navigating with their child as well. And also, the last thing I'll share here is consider transferring to different functions. So if there's a particular function that the employee has the skill set for, that they can deliver in, consider moving the employee to that particular function, because that will allow them to better cope with the situation that they are indeed navigating.
No, that last point that you make a while ago is going to segue. I'm going to use that point to segue over into the parental part of it, in terms of what the parents now can do to help mitigate against some of these anxiety issues with the employment. Now, my husband just spoke about transfer to other functions. So the first point I'm going to make is that as parents, you need to be flexible in terms of skill set. So even though you might be an accountant, try and make sure that you can do something else. Make sure to work with integrity.
That's important.
Maintain your values. When I say work with integrity, maintain your values, ethical principles, and a positive attitude when you go to work. Not because we are having these challenges, because guess what? I know we alone have challenges. Only people out there have challenges. Everybody have a little challenge that they're going to come with at times, right? But not because you have a situation here where special need and then you're going to just go and think, say, every day you need to be late, you have permission to be late, every day you come and it's the same excuse all over, right? No, be genuine, be real, be fair, right? Maintain your values, ethical principles, positive attitude. That's a must, because When it comes to evaluation, you're going to be evaluated on the work that is being done, the values, the ethical principles. Those are the things that is going to carry your evaluation. So you have to make sure that you maintain that, right? Now, be flexible. Work needs to be done.
Yes.
So if you ask for time off to go to therapy, try and find a way to put in back some time.
Yes.
Right? Because that is important. The work still have to be done. You know, you're
Right.
employed to the people and work, so the work have to still done.
Yes.
So find some time to put in back the time. So be flexible. Your boss is being flexible with you, so be flexible with your boss as well. Provide alternative solutions. Now, managers, and tell me if I'm wrong there, managers like employees who are solution oriented.
That's it.
So when you have, it's not that we can't have challenges, it's not that we can't have problems, but at the same time, it's good to come up with a solution. So I like to use this approach. If I have a deadline and I know I have a deadline for tomorrow and I have an appointment for today, when I go to negotiate with my boss, I would like to talk and say, listen, well, I have an appointment to do such and such. However, I would work tonight to complete this to ensure that we meet the appointment. Now, when you take an approach like that to your work, it's difficult for your manager to tell you no.
Exactly.
Because get what? You have actually come up with the solution to the situation before you even go. Because you have some persons just come and they will just tell you, oh, I have a doctor's appointment and I have to go. So you behave so entitled, not because you have a genuine situation. You behave so entitled. So because you have a doctor's appointment, you're going to go to your doctor's appointment.
So there you don't have to be solution oriented, but you have to be initiative driven.
Yes.
As well.
Right,
Employers like persons who show the initiative, right? Try to find another way to get it done. Yes, you have your challenges, but you're not looking for pity.
Right.
What you're looking for from your employer is empathy.
Right.
And you have to understand as the employee that the business must go on. The show must go on, right? You're going to need to be paid, and the company needs to make money in order
to pay you.
To be paid.
You have to make it a win-win situation.
Exactly.
So the employer is giving to you, then you must be willing to show how am I going to help you to maximize your income. All right. One of the next thing to consider is when we are looking at job functions. Now, you may find that you may have a career path before you actually discover that your child was on the spectrum or you have this particular situation and they come up on the way. But as I talk about the upskill and make sure that you're flexible to move into other areas. Now, this is one point I would say. Try to work in areas or companies that offer, that kind of flexibility. At positions, rather. Try to work in positions that offer flexibility. If you're a security guard, as a security guard works on strange hours and odd hours and that kind of stuff. That may not be a flexible position to work with when it comes to your child.
Yes.
Because the reality is, if you have to care for that child and you can't leave a security post, because you can't leave people in place and more, and if somebody not come to release you, you can't move. What you're going to do with your child? So when I'm saying that, no disregard to any particular job, we're just using that as a example to show that there are some areas that are just not flexible, and we just have to try, when we have certain situations, to try as best as possible to avoid them. One other thing I would also say is look at possible options for earning additional income, right? Look at ways to supplement your income. Do some other thing, and you might say, you physically not have the time to do something else, but it does not necessarily have to be that you have another job, but you can look at some passive income, invest into something that earn while you're even working or something, and you may find that your passive income or your side income may just become your main income, because we find that the passive incomes these days are earning so much than your 9 to 5 or even equivalent to your 9 to 5 that you can almost quit your 9 to 5. So just be flexible. We expect our employers to give. At the same time, we must expect to do our part. Do you have anything to add there?
Yeah, I just want to wrap by saying it's the challenges are indeed very real.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The economics as it relates to the household, the individual, the parents that are impacted here. And I want to appeal to our employers to, we covered some things here that you can consider if you do have employees with children on the spectrum. And then Terrian also shared, if you're an employee, what are things that you can do? And I also want to lobby there, because we've become advocates in this community
Yeah.
for those that are in the political positions, etc., the ones who make the laws and policies and stuff, to consider parents in this community and the unique challenges that we face, right? And what can be done here as well for us. Many of us, we are hardworking individuals. We want to contribute not only to our own family economy and income, but we want to think general and broader as well. So we need some
Yeah,
assistance in that
and
regard.
caring for these children can just be lifelong, because
Yes.
depending on the severity of the situation, you may find that even when they're adults, you have to be caring for them as well,
Yeah.
and that can be overwhelming. All right.
Yeah.
With this, we wrap for this week, and we say thank you so much for joining us in this another day in the life of living on Autistic Edge. Don't forget to like,
Comment,
share, and subscribe, and make sure you hit that notification bell so the next time we put out another content,
you will be
be
notified.
notified.